Hello, my beautiful biddies. Welcome back to this week's episode of Brutally Anna. It is Wednesday. Well, actually, no, it's Tuesday, but by the time you hear this, it will be Wednesday. And it is the Wednesday before 4th of July week, which, if you are not a US citizen and you don't have basically all next week sort of off, I feel very badly for you. But because it is 4th of July coming up, we have a glorious week where it's going to be pretty slow. And I'm kind of looking forward to that because I am just ready at this point to go do nothing. I think that is an acceptable way to exist. I hope if you have a normal corporate girly job that you are taking the whole week off or at least a few days off to enjoy yourselves. I really advocate for the best hobby being nothing. And Matt LeBlanc, who played Joey on Friends, said it best. I can't remember what article I saw this in, but he was basically like, all this money I have, everybody's like, "What do you do now post Friends? Like, what has your life been like?" And he's like, "Well, I've acted in some movies, but I realized that that took away time from me wanting to do nothing, and so I stopped doing that." And look, I know Matt LeBlanc has that Friends money that most of us can only dream to have, so he has the luxury of doing nothing. That aside, I have to say, I really appreciate his honesty because I feel like a lot of celebrities would be in a position where they'd feel like, "Oh, I have to do something with my time and my money that's productive." And honestly, sometimes what's productive for you as a human is to do absolutely nothing. We're always talking about, okay, we can do more. How can we be more? How can I prove myself? And sometimes the best way to improve yourself is to do nothing. How do you know what the fuck you want if you are always doing shit and never stopping to wonder if you actually like what you're doing? I want you to think about that with men. Do less, do so much less. Okay. Because your silence is so much more powerful than your words. Oh, but Anna, what happens if he doesn't actually respond to me doing less? What if he does even less? Then let him go, okay? Make like a Mel Robbins and let that bitch go because he was never meant to be in your life if you have to do more to keep him. So, today we're going to talk about feeling unwanted. So much of our life struggles when it comes to friendships or romantic relationships or work or even family comes down to the fact that we feel unwanted. And what do we do when we feel unwanted? Well, we do things to try to make ourselves more wanted. With men, it might be diminishing yourself so that you are not in his way. You're not intrusive. You're not a bother. You're just pleasantly there to serve him when he needs you. And you hope that by diminishing yourself, that he will one day pick you up like a furry little rodent and be like, "Oh, I see how small you've become. You are so small and so furry. Let me feed you and grow you into a larger rodent. And then we can be rodent princesses and princes and live happily ever after. And then you'll finally be the full size rat you are." And here's the thing, the smaller you become, the easier it is to step on you because he can't see you. He can't see what he's doing to you. And as you diminish yourself smaller and smaller, you turn into nothing. You're like the opposite of what Cinderella's pumpkin did. Instead of turning into a pumpkin, you just evaporate into thin air, okay? Her carriage at least turned into a pumpkin. You are not even a tiny mouse. You're just nothing. And the point is not to be nothing. The point is to be a rat, the queen rat, that creepy looking rat in the Nutcracker. Do we remember that? I think he was the villain. She was the villain. I don't know. Be that rat. Take up space. Shock people. Be the baddest rat you've ever seen. This is what we do to try to become wanted. And we don't become wanted by diminishing ourselves to the point where people don't even understand, like, well, what are you offering to the world? I don't want what you're offering because you're not offering anything other than not standing in my way. One of my favorite quotes is by Henry David Thoreau, and he said, "Be not simply good, be good for something. All good things are wild and free and ratty." He didn't say the rat part, but I did. And I want to dispel the myth that women being good and virtuous and sweet is going to give us the lives we want because everything I have in my life is because I dared to be a rat. If you're going to be some sort of rodent, don't just be a field mouse, be a fucking rat. I had struggled with this all my childhood. So many people are like, "Oh, I wish I could be a kid again. I was so free." I did not find childhood very freeing. I just felt very powerless as a kid because when you are the child of Chinese immigrants who have very little money and don't speak English as their first language, all you see are limitations. You don't necessarily see the possibility of the world around you. I didn't feel free because something as simple as watching my mom try to go return something at Kmart, which if you guys don't know what that is, it was a department store or was it it was kind of like a Walmart. All right, it was like a big box store that sold a bunch of miscellaneous things. It wasn't like a J.C. Penney or a Macy's. But I remember back in the 90s before Amazon did the whole returns process, it used to be really difficult to return things. You'd kinda have to, like, repackage it and make it look like you didn't open it even though you totally did, and then you'd have to bring the receipt and a copy of your driver's license and your Social Security and a warrant for your arrest in case they open it and they find you did accidentally touch it with your finger, and then you'd have to bring it up to the customer service associate after waiting in line and be like, "I want to return this pot because it is defective. And I know it's defective, but I haven't opened it. I just know it's defective in my heart, but it is brand new. And even though I know it's defective, you can still resell it to somebody else and they might not find it defective. So please give me my $25.99 back." And that used to be how returns went. And if you were savvy enough and you were salesy enough and you just saddled on up to the customer service sales rep at the Kmart and you could kind of like sweet talk your way into being like, "This pot sucks." They'd be like, "Okay, here's your 25.99 back, ma'am." But let's say you were a Chinese immigrant, not well versed in the romance of returns. You would go up to the customer service associate and say, "Excuse me, I'd like to return this." And they'd be like, "Why?" And you'd be like, "Because I actually realized that I could resurrect my old pot from the rusty dead that it was. And because every cent literally counts, I decided to scrub this cleaner than I found it, repackage it, and bring it back because I need the money and because my old pot actually works just fine." And you can't say that. So you just say, "It doesn't work." And then they'd be like, "Well, how does it not work? It's a pot." And then you just kind of sputter along. And if you're me as a 7-year-old, you're running through a million different ways you could explain yourself out of that situation because English is your first language, you lucky bastard, because your parents decided to make the dangerous trek all the way to the US from China when you were 7 months in your mom's womb. So you are an American citizen, you speak English perfectly, and you're like, "I know I'm 7, but I know I could get a refund on this damn pot." But you know it's also inappropriate to speak for your mother as a 7-year-old. And so I finally got to an age where I could advocate for myself and my parents. That was somewhere around college. And I've been doing that ever since. And look, they don't really need me to advocate for them. They speak very, very adequate English. Yes, they have heavy accents, but they speak good English. You can communicate with them. But I think ultimately people still stereotype people with accents. And so I'm very, very acutely aware of people trying to take advantage of my parents because they have accents. Now, what does this have to do with being wanted or unwanted? Well, other than the fact that we didn't want the damn pot, I remember childhood just being a struggle and feeling powerless because those situations as a kid, you realize that despite the fact that your parents are trying their best to protect you and to make sure you are safe and growing up with what you need, they're not working with every single resource that they could be working with if they actually raised you in their home country. And that takes incredible bravery, but it's also really scary. Like you grow up as a kid thinking, "Hey, the world is kind of a scary place because I've seen that it's a scary place." And then you go to school and everybody else's mom knows how to bake muffins. And you're like, "Shit, the world is a scary place. And my mom doesn't know how to bake muffins." Because, by the way, Chinese food, the best. All right. I will take Asian food any day. I love me some pasta and burgers and fries and all that, but Asian food all the way. However, Chinese people, in my humble opinion, cannot freaking bake. The baked goods are lacking. I don't know what is going on with baked goods. Maybe it's different over there now, but like when I was in Shanghai studying abroad in 2011, I was like, "What is this? It looks like a cake. It feels like a cake, it smells like one, and then you eat it and you're like, "Hmm." So, baking, I don't think is a strong suit of Chinese people, and therefore, my mom didn't really know how to bake, and, when you're 10 and it's your birthday and you're turning 11, your parents typically send you to school with, like, cupcakes or muffins or cookies to celebrate with your whole class, and, my mom would go to the Acme and buy me those little mini cupcakes instead, and so you realize through those small events that you're different. And when you're a kid, you don't wanna be different. You just wanna be the same because in general, kids want to play with other kids who are the same. Like, nobody teaches kids, "Oh, like, individuality is great," especially not in public school. Like, maybe in private school, yes. Dave went to private school, and I feel like there was maybe a little less clique stuff going on there because the class sizes were smaller. So I just feel like there weren't as many opportunities for cliques and groups to form. However, in my public school outside of the suburbs, there was definitely a popular crowd. There were the popular girls. They were usually athletic, or if they weren't athletic, they were pretty and they wore all the right things. And I remember this girl in elementary school, actually into middle school, and her mom just bought her, like, all the right clothes. Do you guys ever remember having a kid like that in your class, like a girl who was just always stylish? Because her mom shopped for her at Limited Too, and she always had the most on-trend stuff, whatever that means for a seven-year-old. But yeah, that wasn't me. Like, I shot the clearance racks. And I just remember wanting to be wanted so badly by the popular girls. And then I moved and I changed schools and I still wanted to be wanted so badly by the popular girls. And they never wanted me. And I thought that was a personal failing because I was like, I'm not cool enough. And then I went to college and I was like, okay, enough of that shit, right? I had my group of girlfriends. I wouldn't say we were like dorks, but no, actually, no, we were dorks. I wouldn't say we were horribly unpopular, but like we were definitely not the most popular girls in school. And there was always like a level of cool factor that I felt like at least I will speak for myself, not for my girlfriends. I felt like I lacked. I just wasn't chill. I had no chill. I've never been born with chill and I still don't have it at 34 years. So I went to college and I was like, okay, I am going to be different now. Nobody knows who I was in high school. I feel like everybody feels like this when they reinvent themselves and they go to college and they are like, oh, it's a chance to just begin again. And then somehow I got myself into a situation where I was like, I don't feel totally cool. There was this cool group of girls at NYU, and they all changed their names from normal names to like kind of hipster indie names. I remember one girl's name was literally Rebecca. Cool. And she just decided to go by Waverly. And I didn't know that until later on because I just figured her name was Waverly, but yeah, she decided to go from Rebecca to Waverly. We all know why. It's like, "Oh, why would you decide to change your name?" Waverly just sounds, like, cooler, like the cool girl, and there were so many girls like that, and guess what? They actually just, like, were cool. I don't know how to describe it. They just had that effortless kind of coolness to them, and people just wanted to be around them. They wanted to be friends with them. The guys wanted to date them, and I was not one of them. My name is Anna. I did not change it to anything. What if I changed my name to like Rainbow Sprinkles at NYU? Do you think that would have made me cooler? I don't know. Anything goes. Like for those of you who went to Big Ten schools, you do not understand the culture at NYU. It was not a normal college culture. There were so many rich kids from the Upper East Side and all over the country. And it was like, okay, who could out hipster the other? Like who could look poor but in a rich way? And that's how NYU was. The hipster movement was strong. Brooklyn had just started to gentrify and thrive. And I just remember thinking, shit, I don't feel wanted again. And at some point, you just get tired of fighting and you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to be friends with these people that I guess are losers like me. And guess what? Some of those fucking losers are still my friends. And this is all just to say that it finally took me to this point in my life where I've stopped letting other people's opinions dictate how I feel about myself. I know that sounds like such a simple concept, but the fact of the matter is, I was letting people dictate how I felt about me for way too long. And I did this across a multitude of relationships. It wasn't just with friends, the cool girls, it was with men. I kept wanting to be wanted by the men who didn't want me. In fact, the less they wanted me, the more I wanted them. Because I think when you struggle your whole childhood to make friends and have regular social connections outside of your parents, you think that the harder the relationship is to attain, the better it is, like the more worthwhile that is. And even though I unlearned that in my 20s with friendships, I realized friendships should be easy. It's a two-way street. I needed a lot longer to learn that with men. Like, I really think that love is not difficult. Marriage, in fact, I find not that difficult. I find life difficult. And I think marriage is a part of life if you choose to get married. And therefore, marriage can be difficult because of what life throws at it. But if you marry the right person, marriage is not difficult. And look, I know you're like, well, you've only been married for what, 3 years in September? Like, what do you know? No, I don't know anything. But look, I've been married for 2 years and I've been with my husband for 7. And so far, I will say life has been really fucking difficult at times, but our marriage has not. I learned to go where I am wanted or not be disappointed by the people who didn't want me. And I've realized that as much as I've unlearned wanting to be wanted by people who don't want me, in my romantic relationships, in my friendships, that I was having a hard time doing it in my professional life because I went viral in 2022. And those first couple weeks were insane because I had no idea what to do. I just knew I wanted to do something. I was like, okay, I think this is my moment to turn this into a career. So let me do something with it. And then all of a sudden, all these managers started reaching out to me. And the first manager that reached out to me was somebody who was at a pretty big firm. And I remember seeing that name on some other creators' bios. And I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this company wants to talk to me. So we set up a meeting. I loved the manager. I thought she was amazing. It was awesome. And she was like, okay, cool. Like, I really love you. I really want to sign you. Let me take you back to my team and just see what they have to say. And I was like, cool. I crushed that. That was amazing. Like, me and D, let's call her, are going to be like this. And this is going to be the best story ever. When I tell it one day, I'm going to be like, my first manager was the first person to reach out to me. And like, I've stuck with her ever since. Cause you know what? I'm just such a sucker for like love stories, even when it comes to work. And like, I really learned that I need to detach from the love story that I was concocting in my head with work because what ended up happening was that I didn't hear from her for about a week. And I knew that that wasn't great because just in general, if somebody's really excited about you, they're not going to let a week go by without touching base. And so I was like, okay, that's not great, but like maybe there's still hope. It's fine. And then finally she emails back and she's like, hey, we really, really loved meeting you and I really love getting to know you, but we just don't think you're ready yet. Like, your numbers are not big enough yet, and we just wanna see you grow more before we entertain the idea of working with you. And that was the first time that I realized that truly nobody knows what they're doing, really. I'm a perfect example of that. I have not really lived my life with that, like, utter confidence that I feel like you see on social media preached so often. Like, I doubt myself constantly. And I do not believe you have to walk around with like your chest out and saying, I'm so confident. I'm the queen of I know. Like, sometimes you just don't fucking know. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes you have no idea what you're doing and you just go for it and you hope for the best. And so that's kind of how I've lived my life. But for the first time in my life, I remember getting that email. And instead of feeling like it was a bad reflection on me, and instead of being like, oh, I am insufficient or I'm deficient, I was like, "You're wrong, and I'll show you." Nobody believed me yet, but I believed in me. And that was the most important part because I just really believed that I'd finally found my calling or whatever the hell you want to call it. And I was like, I'm going to show you. And I kept growing. And that was like a pretty cool management team. I would have been pretty happy to sign with them. But 6 months later, not even, I had my current agents reach out to me, one of the biggest talent agencies in the world, and I was like, "This is why it didn't work out for me all those months ago with what I thought would have been my dream management team. This is why." And what that taught me was I was unwanted by one company, but that didn't mean I wasn't going to be wanted by another company, by quite frankly, a company that understood my vision more. I'm not convinced that that first management company wasn't run by a bunch of chads because, like, me and the manager, homegirl was it. Like, we connected, and I just feel like the powers that be, probably a Chad, was like, no, we can't sign her yet. We don't know what to do with her. Well, you know what? That's fine. I know what to do with me and I will keep moving along. And I think about my life if I had just settled down with every guy I wanted, I would never have this life that I have right now. My life is pretty fucking sweet. I am not gonna lie. Depression and all, look, the mental health was gonna rear its ugly head no matter what. So didn't matter where I was sitting, who I was with, I was always gonna struggle with mental health. But that aside, my life is amazing. It is so much better than I ever thought it was ever going to be. I have the freedom. I can advocate for myself. I am no longer that little 7-year-old girl watching her mom try to return something at Kmart. I know how to talk my way into and out of something. And I also know now when somebody is wrong about me. And I also know, and this is the most important part, when I'm wrong about me, because there's actually no greater feeling in the world than proving yourself wrong. It's not so much about proving others wrong, it's proving that you were wrong about yourself. I don't know what you feel like you're insufficient at, what's making you feel unwanted, or who's making you feel unwanted right now, but I want to pose the question, how are you ever going to know who wants you or where you're wanted if you keep running after the things that don't want you? The things that want you are chasing after you, and you are running so fast after the things that don't want you that they can't catch up to you. So slow down. Let go of the things that are running away from you. They're gone, all right? Eventually, you're going to get tired and you can't run after them. Let go, slow down, and let the things that are for you catch up with you. And I think that's been my whole life is that sometimes it's really annoying waiting because in the process of waiting for the people and the opportunities that are meant for you that do want you and letting go of the people and the opportunities that don't want you, you're standing still and you're alone. And that doesn't feel good. And it feels like in order to move the needle forward, because we're always preaching, this is capitalism for you, forward momentum, right? So you're like, okay, well, I'm not moving, I'm standing still, and the things that are for me have not caught up with me. So I need to go after something. I need to go after something that will want me. So let me at least run, right? And it's like, nah, girl, take a chill pill. You don't need to run. You just need to stand still sometimes. Sometimes the most powerful forward movement you can make is by not moving at all and letting it come to you. That's not to say literally don't do anything, like don't get out of your bed. I'm just saying stop chasing the things that are not meant for you because I think the greatest thing I've learned from being an adult so far is that I am really dumb. I'm really dumb at predicting my own life. I'm really dumb at predicting what I want. And life, if I just let the universe or God or whatever you believe in do its thing, it eventually works out. It doesn't work out on my timeline because, quite frankly, my timeline's dumb. I'm a dumb bitch, all right? And you're a dumb bitch. And I say that with the kindest, most loving intention. I don't mean to say that in a derogatory way. I just mean take comfort in the fact that you're a dumb bitch. There is so much magic that is about to happen to you that you don't know about. And I don't know about. Even as little as a month ago, I remember writing to you guys in the newsletter, which if you don't follow the newsletter or subscribe to the newsletter, please go and do that. It's free. It'll make you feel better, trust me. I remember writing to you all in my newsletter and being like, I'm really fucking depressed and I don't know why. And this sucks. And I've upped my Zoloft and I'm trying to do all the things. And now I'm not as depressed. And by the way, I actually do know why because yeah, apparently when you don't take Zoloft consistently, your moods are also incredibly inconsistent. So if you're on SSRIs, take it consistently. It's not like Xanax. You don't like pop a Zoloft when you're feeling down. You just take the Zoloft so you never have to be that down. And it's crazy to me that I'm sitting here today because I truly feel so different. I don't feel like a different person, but I feel like there's hope again. And I think that's a combination of the SSRIs working and just life changing and proving to myself that my life is not doomed, that all of the demons in my head are not right. Again, I'm a dumb bitch. And on the days you feel the worst about yourself, I know it's very counterintuitive because everyone's always like, "Oh, tell yourself you're a queen, like slay, queen, whatever." No. On the days you feel the worst about yourself, tell yourself, "I'm a dumb bitch, and everything I'm telling myself right now is wrong." The worst thing you can do in life is be right about everything because then there's no room for magic. There's no room for amazing things to happen to you. And sure, terrible things will happen to you, but that's life. It happens, and we figure out what to do with it. But I think you find if you keep living, you'll get somewhere, and you'll get somewhere probably better than you ever thought you would get. One of my favorite things that one of y'all, y'all, I'm from Philly, guys. I don't know where the hell that came from. This is from a follower on Instagram, and I love this so much. I shared it on my stories the other day, but I'm going to share it with you guys now. Hi, Anna. I hope you are doing well. And if you take the time to read this, thank you. A month ago, I chose to be the girl that chooses herself. Your page had a lot to do with that. Thank you so much for the encouragement, insight, and knowledge that has helped me feel so much less alone in this time. If I had known this is what was on the other side, I would have chosen myself a lot sooner. Blessings. See? She was a dumb bitch. She didn't make the right choices until a month ago. So you can be a dumb bitch with us. Make the right choices and just assume that you're wrong about yourself. Because more often than not, those voices inside your head, they're not telling you anything nice. They're telling you that you suck, that you're unattractive, that you're never going to get a man that you like, that your job is dead end and you have no hope for the future. And those voices inside your head, they're wrong. But you're making them right. Okay. You're proving those voices right because you are chasing after the people and the things that don't want you. And so I say today, go where you are wanted. There are plenty of opportunities and people and life and animals who want you. Stop running towards the things that are running away from you and run towards the people and the opportunities and the life that is running towards you. And eventually it'll smack you upside the head and you'll collide and it'll be this most beautiful collision and you might have a concussion, but you'll be so happy and you'll be hallucinating. But then you'll wake up and you're like, wait, I wasn't hallucinating. I'm living the life of my dreams. It ran right into me. The only thing that I had to stop doing was running the opposite direction that it was running towards. And I'm going to leave you all with this quote today. It's by George Eliot. And I think I'm going to end these episodes with like a little inspirational quote at the end of it because, in addition to being a dumb bitch, I'm also a quote bitch. Literally, when I was in middle school and high school, I still have this. I have a Word doc on my computer that I've since stopped adding to of all these inspirational quotes that I would just like categorize into like love, friendship, heartbreak, whatever. And I would just draw on it for inspiration when I needed it. Yeah, I was a moody kid. All right. But I remember we had binders and like you could decorate the front of your binders because it had that little clear plastic pocket. And I used to print out all of my favorite quotes on like one 8.5 by 11 sheet in different fonts and colors on the inkjet color printer we had. And I would, like, do a ghetto version of laminating it by using packing tape, like, if you just tape the whole paper, it's sort of like a weird way of laminating it, and I would put that in the sleeve, and so the front of my binder had, like, 40 different quotes on it, and I always loved it, and I've always loved quotes because sometimes you just need, like, a tiny little 5-second reminder of what a dumb bitch, but a bad bitch you are. So I'm gonna leave you guys with this quote today. It's by George Eliot. "It is never too late to be what you might have been." Snack on that, bitch. And I'll see you next week. Oh, sorry, forgot to ask you. Like, subscribe, share, comment, anything. What do you want me to talk about next week? Okay, this is basically, I don't know how long this is going to be, but this is going to be like a half hour to 45-minute improv on topics I've been thinking of, but also topics that you guys want to hear me just kind of riff on. It's unscripted, literally, and it scares the shit out of me that I'm doing this because honestly, this is one of those things where I'm like, I'm hoping I'm a dumb bitch. I've always thought I haven't been that great with improv. Like when I was taking acting classes, I was like, I'm not good at improv. I'm not good on the fly. And I've always sort of felt like that when it comes to podcasting. Like, I think part of the problem with the first half of my podcast was that I felt like I needed to script out every beat and I needed to have all these questions prepared. And I've always been like an over preparer, but I think sometimes that ruins the magic of it. You know what? It's like exactly what I was saying to you guys before. Honestly, I just meant to come on here and tell you guys to like and subscribe, but this is turning to a whole different tangent. So just stay with me here. This is exactly what I was telling you before. I was like, I am going to script out my content so much so that every single point hits home that I just started to realize that I'd removed the human element out of it. I even bought a teleprompter. I wrote an 8-page Word doc that I timed, and it took freaking forever, and I was like, "I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but, like, we're gonna figure out a way." I wrote that and I recorded it, and then as I was watching this, I was like, "I sound like a robot." Alright, I sound like an audiobook, but, like, not even a good audiobook, like an audiobook that you're like, nah, girl, we're not feeling this." And so I just decided, you know what the hell? Like, what do I have to lose? I'm sitting here in my house with my very basic setup. I have basic editing skills, and I have shit to say to you guys. And I think that stuff is going to make you guys feel better. So we're just riffing week after week. So I'd love to talk about what things are on your mind, what you're struggling with. You can always DM me, and you can always like, subscribe, and comment. Mwah. Thank you. Bye. Love you.